Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today is Gary Keats. Gary is the owner of Culligan, our Culligan water service here in Front Royal.
Correct.
And appreciate you. I think I remember when Arnold Williams, owned that years ago, and he
did.
Seemed to do quite well with it. And
Yeah.
I understand you have several offices around the state.
We do. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit of something about Culligan of Front Royal.
So we've been in this market for a little over 60 years, and it's been great, right? So we cover 4 counties. We've got Warren, Fauquier, Page, and Rappahannock, and enjoy taking care of the customers. That's what our number one priority is, and taking care of cleaning water, and things like that. So.
Yeah, years ago I always thought Culligan was nothing but a water softener, but I guess things have changed, haven't they?
They have quite a bit, yeah. And actually, if you go back about 30 years, we were known more as a bottled water delivery company,
right?
And so they kind of have always gone through this transition where they try to bring to light or bring public knowledge educate the public on other items in the water. And so it's taken this interesting turn over the past 10, 15 years. And as water gets worse, we continue to find ways to treat it.
Well, even our town water supply, we just upgraded our water treatment system a few years ago.
Sure.
Spent $40 million, and then now turn around. I think we're going to have to do it again for another. We've taken out estrogen, phosphorus.
Yep.
And now microplastics is the next big thing.
Yeah.
So is Culligan addressing that?
We are, yeah. So we have a drinking water system now and a whole house system that is. Actually, the whole house system is first to market with EPA standards of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So the EPA just set standards on microplastics and PFAS, and Culligan decided years ago, as they were becoming more and more of an issue, they decided to develop a system.
Yeah.
And so that system is run now 180,000 gallons. It's third-party tested, and it takes care of it up to 99.9%.
Yeah, I think we don't really, because we can't see them.
Correct.
We don't.
Yep.
Can't smell them, can't see them, can't touch them.
Right.
So we don't have them.
You don't think about them, right?
That's right. And they're everywhere now, and that's the thing that they're now starting to interact with stuff that's in our bodies.
That's correct. Yeah. So 98% of blood samples in the United States have been tested positive for some form of microplastic.
Yeah. Where does this stuff come from?
So it derives from really it's Teflon, 3M, those companies and others dumping into water supplies that originally when they dumped they said, hey, this will never be a source of water.
We've heard about that with our Avtex. We've got contaminated wells down the road. From some dump here,
correct,
miles away, affected the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the interesting part about water is you could have a well, and 13 miles away they dig a new one, and your well water gets affected.
Yeah.
So it changes It can change.
I was looking at the maps of the aquifers, and I think it was a little YouTube video. Primarily, I think they were talking about Africa and the desert, how there's no water, but yet there's billions of gallons of water just hundreds of feet below, and this aquifer covers almost the entire continent.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Same thing around here. We have these aquifers, and we don't realize that it's all tied together. So when we dig over here, we're messing somebody up over there.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I know we have some parts of the county that the water's not very good.
Correct. Yeah, and so you can run into heavy iron, sulfur smell, high hardness. It depends on where you're at.
Yeah. I remember I lived up on the Blue Mountain, and I had a well. I call it acidic.
Yeah.
Because it would take 10, 12 tea bags to make a pot of in my Mr. Coffee thing.
Sure.
And I come to town, it would only take 3 tea bags.
Correct.
To make the same amount of tea.
Yeah.
And it had that really acidy taste to it.
Yeah.
But my neighbor just literally 50 feet away, my well was 180 feet.
Okay.
Her well was 800 feet.
Yep.
And her water was completely terrible. Mine was actually pretty good except for this little thing. So it's amazing it was that close.
Yep.
And how the distance and the taste and the quality of the water. Mine was a little harder, hers a little softer.
Sure.
So it's really strange.
Yeah, it really is. And even with city water or town water, you can find that the closer you are to the source, maybe the higher chlorine you have or the higher hardness level you have. Depends on how they're treating it. But
so whether we live in town or live in the county, we could we could take advantage of some of the services you offer.
Absolutely.
We think about town, we don't need it.
Sure.
But
and that's a common misconception, right? So town here, they do have slightly hard water. It's not extremely high, but they have to treat with chlorine, or in some cases, not in Front Royal they don't treat with chloramines, but as you get towards the city, they do treat with chloramines, which is a combination of chlorine and ammonia. But we have treatment options for both of those. So dry, itchy skin, taste, smells, you name it, we have the ability to treat.
Because you don't want to always take everything out of the water. We'll
Correct.
be drinking like distilled water then, and that didn't taste very good.
It does not taste good. Yeah, no.
I put that in my CPAP machine because I noticed that when I don't just use it like for just a couple days, I don't put the distilled water in. The calcium, as I call it calcium, I don't know what it is, but it just starts to form because it gets heated up, and it's amazing how just a few days and you're
Doesn't
only talking
take long.
about what, a quart of water maybe in 3 days, and how much calcium deposits inside that in my machine.
So if you put that into perspective, and you think about your water heater, right?
Yes.
Even your tankless water heaters.
I've done that. I've had some water, and I've taken the drain off to drain the water out of it, and nothing comes out. And you take it apart, and it's just packed full. And it's only like 2 years old.
Correct. There was a house not far from here that we did some work on a couple of years ago. And when we opened his water heater, the drain at the bottom, literal rocks were pouring out of it. It occurs.
So there's something for every. How do you do it? You just go into a place and you test their water first?
Correct. Yeah. So we go in, we'll test the water. Typically, our basic water test includes hardness, pH, iron, manganese, nitrates, total dissolved solids, and sulfur.
Okay.
And we go in, we test the water, we ask some questions about the home, sizing and things like that. And then we have treatment options that start really low depending on how your water is.
Right.
And, they can go pretty high.
So how does this, like if I'm on a septic system, does this cause any issues with septic systems, causing it not to work as good as it could?
Sure. So there are some manufacturers of septic systems, especially the new ones, that recommend against dumping into the septic. In that case, sometimes we will find an alternative. We'll have to find an alternative for drainage. But standard septic, typically not a problem.
Okay.
Our systems nowadays, 20 years ago, because you're cleaning every 3 days and you're using 20 pounds of salt and things like that. But nowadays, we've got them so dialed in and so capable of programming.
Or got computers on them, don't you?
Yeah, we do, and they communicate with us. So if there's a problem with it, we know before the customer does.
Sure.
And they will tell the customer on their phone when they need supplies, and they can hit a button on their phone, and it allows them to order supplies directly from us. So.
And I know the technology has really changed every industry.
It has.
You never thought about
You don't think that your water softener needs a meter on it to tell you when it has a problem, but the thing about Culligan that they've spent a lot of time and energy in is really cornering the market on technology. And we have everything from a unit that goes inside of our water softener. So as we just talked about, water can change.
Sure.
So if your water changes, our system has the ability to automatically change with it. The importance of that is it saves service calls, because if your water changes and your softener, for say, starts running out of soft water, and it doesn't adjust, then you're calling us and saying, hey,
something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong, right? And we come out and we make a programming adjustment, but when you have that aqua sensor installed, it monitors and raises and lowers with the hardness level.
Now a person with sugar can wear a little dial stuck on their side, and it automatically adjusts their insulin for the same. And it's amazing.
That's correct. Yeah.
Changes people's lives,
It
and
does.
I'm sure this does the same thing.
It does.
People,
Absolutely.
we don't. Water is a necessity of life.
It is. It's one of the
people
only.
say I don't drink water. Yes, you do.
You just
everybody
don't realize
drinks.
it. That's
it's
right.
in everything, right?
Yeah, it's the only, or one of the only sources we cannot live without.
Yeah.
Right? So
they say you can live without food longer than you can live without water. So.
Correct. That is correct. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing, and again, you don't think about the certain.
You really don't.
What you're doing, you don't think about the quality. I know a lot of people. Oh, I don't like town water. Oh, I don't like well water. So they've developed this taste, and would you ever thought in the years that we would be paying for water, like buying bottled water? I mean, I never thought that day would ever come, but
It's here.
It's
Yeah,
here. Everyone is buying
that's
bottled.
correct. Yeah. And so we have systems that go in that reduce your need for bottled water.
Okay.
I have a family of 4. I've got 2 children, and they both play sports. And when we're going to a sporting event, they just grab one of the small pack bottles
Right.
and take it with them. What my wife did a couple years ago, she bought us all these large gallon jugs,
Sure.
and so we just fill them up at our tap and we take them with us.
Yeah.
But
Because you have a whole house system,
I
don't
do,
you?
yeah, of course, yeah. But so with that, we are able to provide, basically a bottling system that goes
Yeah.
underneath your sink and treat your water for drinking, and
Yeah.
can also put it into the refrigerator for clear ice cubes and things like that.
Oh yeah, I hate ice. It's
Yeah.
I hate refrigerator ice.
That's correct,
I'll spend money to buy ice,
Yeah.
just because it's just so much better.
Yeah,
It's crystal ice is so much better.
That's right.
But it's amazing. So how did you get started into this? Just curious.
Yeah, interesting enough, I've kind of followed my father-in-law since he got out of the Navy, and so he did about 23 years in the military. And when he got out, he got into Culligan from, oddly enough, my sister's husband. So my brother-in-law had called my father-in-law and said, "Hey, we have a position open as an installer." And about a year later, after I saw what those two were doing together, it interested me.
Right.
And
They're onto something.
yeah, and it had nothing to do with anything other than I've always been somebody that enjoys taking care of people.
Sure.
And so I was looking for something that I could do to help take care of people in the
Sure.
general public, and that's how I got into it, and I've just done that since my career. Yeah.
You've latched onto something you have a passion about.
I do,
So,
yeah.
So it's great. That's
Yeah.
what we need. That's
Yeah.
what we need.
Yeah,
well, I want to thank you for
Yeah.
coming to
No.
our community. You've been here a few years.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I can see the changes already.
Yep.
You're busy down on that end of town.
Constantly,
You're out of sight, out of mind down there on
Right, yeah.
across from the bowling alley. Right
Correct.
there, we've seen
Yep.
that. I can remember what was there before, the Hex or something.
There was a paper.
Yes, a paper company in
yeah.
there, distribution.
Yeah.
But like I said, you have these 4 counties.
Yeah.
So and you have another store in Virginia Beach out here?
We have 2 over on the east coast of the state. One is in a small town called Gloucester, and then we have another one down in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
And those 2 markets cover the entire eastern third of Virginia.
And they
so.
completely have a different water type down there than we do here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah, it's almost opposite, isn't it?
It's not so much opposite. There's a lot of town water there,
Yeah.
and you got a lot of military. So, the unique part about that area is you have a lot of people that come and go
Right.
because military is typically
Sure.
only at their base for 2 to 7 years,
Sure.
depends. So we have a lot of customers down there that'll actually take their system with them,
Right.
So they'll purchase the system from us, and or they'll rent because they know they're going to be leaving.
Sure.
And when they leave, they either take it with them, or if it's a rental, we leave it for the next
Okay.
person.
Right, so let's talk about that real quick before we finish up. So how do people get involved in this? They can buy, they can rent, they can...
Yeah, for sure. So it starts with a free water analysis, and if you're interested in having the water tested for microplastics and PFAS, then we offer that. There is a small charge for that, but we credit it if you decide to go with a system that needs it. So it starts with a free water test. Then we design the system for the home and the customer's needs, and then if that customer's interested in putting a system in, we offer interest-free financing. We have rental programs, and then of course anybody can
Kind of like a try to buy. You rent it, and if you like it, you can
correct. And
purchase it.
if you decide within the first 6 months that you want to purchase it, then we credit your entire rental fees and installation fees.
Sounds real easy.
Yeah.
But I do also know it makes a big difference in washing your clothes.
It does, yeah, and your water using appliances.
Yeah.
So dishwashers, laundry,
Coffee maker,
showers.
I can remember you're washing your clothes on some of that heavy iron water.
Yeah.
Everybody walks around with dingy clothes.
Yeah, that's right. And so our systems will prevent that from happening. And it actually, when you have a water treatment system installed, any damage that's been done to the plumbing, it can actually reverse a majority of it. There's some items, low pH, if you're damaging your plumbing, then it won't reverse that, but it will prevent it from going any further.
Worse, at least we're not using our old galvanized pipes and things too much anymore. I'm sure there's still some few around.
That's right.
They're not in the house, but they're in the ground between the street and the house. A lot around there. I think there's programs trying to get rid of all that stuff, but we don't realize, most of the people don't know what kind of plumbing they have.
Correct.
It's in the wall. I can't see it.
Yeah. And we do as we're there, we do a free plumbing inspection. That's just part of what we do is the free water analysis.
Well, you kind of have to know where the water's coming from.
Well, we have to know where it's coming from. But the other thing that a lot of individuals or customers that we have don't realize is that, your water treatment system, it is the hardest working appliance in your house. And I think what speaks value to Culligan is, our average cycle of life or life cycle of our systems is somewhere between 15 and 20 years.
Okay.
And to have the hardest working appliance in your home last that long is just amazing, right? They last forever. So when you get into that, the items like the appliances, we protect them, but we're also the hardest working.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Gary, thanks for coming in and sharing that with us. We want to thank you for sharing and educating our audience.
Yeah.
And I've learned some things that I wasn't aware of.
Great.
But I think it's great. So we'll have to call for that free water analysis.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Gary.
Thank you.